It strikes like a bomb and departs like a storm. This is how Abbacchio describes Purple Haze in the fight with Man in the Mirror. This is an all too fitting description of one of the deadliest stands in all of JoJo, and it's one of the few moments that cemented Purple Haze and its stand user, Pinakata Fugo, as one of my favorite characters in all of fiction. So before we get into Purple Haze in itself, let's talk about one of my favorite characters, Pinakata Fugo. The name panna cotta is actually that of a dessert in Italy, and the name for Fugo is actually a balloon-carried bomb, and honestly, that is a truly weird mix-mashing of names, but if there is something that fits Fugo really well, it is his name. But he was a boy born into a rich family, but they weren't rich like old money rich. They had made all their money through shady dealings and clung to any title that they could get their hands on. But Fugo cared very little about this. He was born a gifted child and hailed as a genius, and he had mastered so many different fields, but he was constantly haunted by the ideas that, if the best of the best lived hundreds of years ago, what remains for me to do? These thoughts, mixed with his constantly increasing education, had him leading a friendless and lonely existence. The only comfort he found was in his grandmother, who always told him to do his best and that someone was looking out for him. He was robbed from this comfort when she passed away on him while he was off studying in the University of Bologna, one of the oldest operating universities. All he wanted to do that day was attend his grandmother's funeral, but he was forbidden to do so. Instead, he had to take a test, in which he did fail, and the professor was furious with Fugo. And when Fugo informed him that his grandmother's passing had affected him, the professor told him that it was a childish excuse, and he needed to grow up. Whatever the professor said after that didn't matter. Fugo wasn't listening. Fugo then picked up the nearly 9-pound dictionary and proceeded to beat the professor within an inch of his life. He didn't do so out of anger or hatred. He only felt that there was no forgiving this man, and this was the only solution. This was the only rational decision. From that moment on, Fugo was no longer a student. His family had disowned him, and he was thrown in prison. This was the end for him, until a zipper-clad man showed up. His name? Bruno Busceletti. Bruno offers him a deal. He would free him from his imprisonment, and then Fugo would join him as his level-headed second-in-command. Fugo, with nowhere else to go, agrees to join Passion. He gained 2 roles through this. He was to help Bruno recruit more members, he being the one who recruits Abbacchio and Narancia, and possibly Mista, even though it's never stated. The other is he would be an executioner. He would eliminate problems with his Purple Haze. Him and Abbacchio would specifically target the ones that Bruno may have been assigned to, but they knew he would never do. As he rose through the ranks and the story continued, it's very clear that Fugo cares a lot about the crew. He considers them all close friends. Bruno he is specifically closest to, being the man he's been with the most of his life, and the man who saved his life. But when they all decide to throw their lives away, he pleads and begs for his friends not to do so. Then he goes and does what he was always trained to do. He makes a rational decision, and he doesn't betray Passion. Now, the original idea here was for Fugo to end up being a traitorous spy, working with Diavolo. But that idea was dropped by Rocky because he was suffering from a depression state, and he didn't like the idea of having a friend betraying the crew. So instead, he had Fugo written out of the story. But you can see these shades of Fugo's betrayal in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Vento Oreo 2, Golden Heart Golden Wind, in which Fugo is tasked with killing the Part 5 crew, when he teams up with a new partner and is given an assignment to take them out. I recommend giving it a read when it's finally finished being translated. And if you'd like to know where Fugo ends up after this, you can always check out my Shameless Purple Haze video, in which I explain what happens from this point on. But let's just say that Bruno sure knows how to pick a right-hand man. But Fugo couldn't have made it as far as he did without his stand, Purple Haze. Purple Haze is a tall humanoid stand with a ferocious nature. Its stats are A in destructive power, B in speed, C in range, E in durability, E in precision, and B in developmental potential. Its name originates from Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze, which is a song about being lost in a haze that just spreads throughout your entire body, which could be easily reflective in Purple Haze's ability. This ability is that Purple Haze is able to release a deadly virus. Now let me say that again. A deadly virus. Not a poison, a virus. Please stop calling it a poison. Not everyone does it, but you know who you are and Dyer will not forgive those sins. But yes, Purple Haze has 3 capsules on each fist, each filled with the deadly Purple Haze virus. This virus has about a 5-meter range, and is deadly to the touch and can kill someone in roughly 30 seconds. Though, it can't survive outside of a host's body for longer than a few seconds in direct sunlight. Nothing besides Purple Haze is immune to this virus, not even Fugo. Fugo is able to become a victim of his own stand. And this is why Fugo grows to hate it. And as he grows as a person, he's able to understand it. And understand it means that he's able to let it become something more. He's able to see Purple Haze as himself. Purple Haze is able to evolve, and with that, it creates distortion. And like any good stand upgrade, the stand stats change. We get an A in destructive power, a B in speed, an E in range, an E in durability, a C in precision, and its developmental potential becomes unknown. Purple Haze Distortion is a weird stand. It's not as weird as a Requiem, but it's weird in the fact that it's the same thing as Purple Haze, but with a new twist. The virus has been modified. It's now way more deadly and destructive. It targets everything. And by everything, that includes itself. So that means to be the most effective with Distortion, Fugo will need to pull his punches. What I mean by that is, when the virus is near itself, it begins to destroy itself. This is why when Fugo is fighting, he will bite down on one of the capsules. It's because he takes in a huge amount of the virus and then spits a small amount out at the enemy, causing them to feel the full blunt force of this assault, and he takes a very little amount of damage in his mouth. Though Fugo isn't entirely immune to the virus, it still has its deadly side effects and will destroy his mouth, like tear it up completely. But he's effectively defeated the deadly side of it, and he's conquered Purple Haze, and through that, his own inner demons. I personally love the idea of a stand that gets more powerful as you hold back in your attack. That seems like a really unique and interesting concept, and I'm glad they gave it to one of my favorite characters from Part 5. Now, where can he go with this stand ability? Who the fuck knows? With a question mark in developmental potential, he could lead to, like, curing diseases, or, like, creating Purple Haze virus that just only targets a specific other virus. That's one of the... I love it, because it can turn into the most deadly destroying stand into one of the strongest healing stands, and just by targeting specific things with this virus, like just wiping away diseases. If you have any ideas that Purple Haze Distortion could possibly do with its developmental potential, then feel free to leave it in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like. And if you really enjoyed this video, you can head on over to patreon.com/MattyNotTheBadGuy and give me $1 or $2, I don't know. Besides that, have a lovely fucking day.
あんたは現実を見ていない。理想だけでこの世界を生き抜くものまで変わらせた。